This is the most dangerous rainforest on Earth. Not because of one predator, but because of all of them. It's a place that still hides some of nature's oldest and strangest secrets. A world so vast, it makes its own weather. So dense that in places the sun never reaches the ground. And nothing is ever truly safe. Every shadow could be hiding a hunter. Every still stretch of water could be hiding another. There is no rest here, and no mercy. For everything that lives in this place, every single hour is a choice between eating and being eaten. So how does anything survive here at all? How do they hunt in the dark, raise their young in the flood, and cross a land that is trying to kill them at every turn? Welcome to the Congo. Almost nothing here survives by accident. Our journey begins in the still, flooded shallows of the swamp, where one of the strangest birds alive stands waiting. The shoebill is nearly the height of a person, with a pale stare and a bill shaped like a heavy wooden clog. It can stand frozen for hours, not moving a single feather, watching the water for the smallest ripple. When something finally surfaces, it throws its whole body down in one violent strike. What it pulls back up can be as big as a young crocodile, swallowed whole in that enormous bill. One of its favourite targets is a fish that is just as happy out of the water as in it. The African lungfish breathes air, and it has to, because it will drown if it can't reach the surface. When the water dries up, it burrows down into the mud, wraps itself in a cocoon of slime, and waits. It can stay sealed in the dried earth for months, even years, until the rains come back and bring it out alive. The shoebill shares these shallows with a crocodile so small, the bird will snatch its young. The dwarf crocodile is the smallest crocodile on Earth, barely longer than your leg, heavily armoured, and shy enough that most people never know it's there. It hunts after dark, walking the wet forest floor and snapping up crabs and frogs one by one through the night. Treading the lily pads just above those crocodiles is a bird that looks like it is walking on the water itself. The African Jacana has enormously long toes that spread its weight over floating leaves, carrying it across water that would swallow anything heavier. Here the usual roles are flipped. The females hold the territory and move on, and it is the males that raise the chicks entirely on their own. A father will gather his young under his wings and carry them off with their legs dangling beneath him in a bundle. And when a crocodile rises beside the lilies, that father has only seconds to act. He calls to them and leads them scrambling over the pads, herding the whole brood out of reach just before the water breaks open behind them. At the swamp's edge, one animal escapes those same crocodiles the way the Jacana's chicks do, by trusting the water. Alan's swamp monkey has slightly webbed fingers and toes, and unlike most primates, it will dive straight into a pool to escape danger. When a predator appears overhead, it simply drops from the branches into the water and swims away. Sharing the same flooded bamboo is another monkey that almost no one ever sees. The owl-faced monkey has a dark face split by a single pale stripe down its nose, and it slips away into the swampy growth long before anyone gets close. Down among the reeds hides an antelope built for this drowned world. The Sitatunga has long splayed hooves that spread its weight across soft mud where heavier animals would sink. When a predator comes, it does something almost no other antelope does and lowers itself into the water until only its nose and eyes show. It will hold there, half submerged and perfectly still, until the danger has passed. Where the swamp drains into open river, the water turns dangerous, and the most feared fish in Africa is hunting. The Goliath tigerfish is the largest of its kind, longer than a man's arm span and armed with teeth like a row of daggers. It is one of the few freshwater fish that will tear chunks out of prey almost its own size, and the fishermen who chase it say it fears nothing in the water. It hunts by sight in fast, churning current, accelerating out of the rapids to run prey down before it can escape. It shares that current with a crocodile that lives almost entirely on fish. The slender-snouted crocodile has a long, narrow jaw lined with thin teeth, perfect for sweeping sideways through the water to catch them. It is one of the most endangered crocodiles in Africa, slipping away among the flooded roots as its forests are cut. Those same fish are hunted from above, after dark, by an owl that fishes. The vermiculated fishing owl snatches its catch straight off the surface with its talons, dropping without a sound, and is so seldom seen that a clear sighting can be the work of years. One fish in this river, the owl learns to leave alone because it answers a grab with electricity. The electric catfish can put out a shock strong enough to stun the prey in front of it and to drive off anything that tries to eat it. People along the Congo have known about that jolt for thousands of years, long before anyone understood what electricity even was. At the river's edge, a creature the size of a rabbit uses that same water as an escape route. The The water chevrotain is one of the oldest kinds of hoofed mammal left on Earth, a tiny spotted animal that dives straight into the stream and runs along the bottom when danger closes in. Where that river breaks into rapids and waterfalls sits the largest frog on the planet. The Goliath frog can grow as big as a house cat and heavy enough to fill both your hands, an ordinary looking frog blown up many times over. It lives only along a narrow band of forest rivers and waterfalls, and nowhere else on Earth. The adults shift heavy stones to build little pools at the river's edge, where their young can grow up safe from the current. In the violent rapids below those falls lives a fish that gave up on light altogether. The Congo blind cichlid spends its whole life in water so deep and so churning that eyes are useless, so it no longer grows any. Its body has faded to a pale pink, with smooth skin where its eyes would be, because nothing down there ever needs to be seen. It feels its way through the dark current of one of the few places on Earth this strange, found nowhere else. Following the streams back into the trees, one of the hardest birds to find in the whole basin stalks the shaded shallows. The white-crested tiger heron hunts alone along forest streams, standing motionless in the gloom, waiting for fish and frogs. It is so shy and so well hidden that even people who spend their lives in these forests rarely lay eyes on one. It hunts the same frogs and fish as a snake that is just as at home in the water as on land. The forest cobra is fast, alert, and one of the largest snakes in Africa, equally ready to climb a tree or swim across open water. Few animals here carry venom this potent in a body this quick, which is why the whole forest gives it room. The cobra, in turn, is hunted from above by an eagle that specialises in snakes. The Congo serpent eagle slips through gaps in the canopy on short, broad wings, drops onto a snake before it can react, and is heard far more often than it is ever seen. That eagle takes another snake too, the deadliest ambush hunter on the forest floor. The Gaboon viper has the longest fangs of any snake in the world, folded back against the roof of its mouth until the moment it strikes. Its skin is patterned so much like dead leaves that you can stand right beside one and miss it completely. It never chases anything. It lies still for days and lets dinner walk straight up to its mouth, then strikes faster than you can react. Down in the same leaf litter and rotting logs crawls one of the heaviest insects in the world. The Goliath beetle can be as long as your hand and weigh more than a small bird, with a grip strong enough to be hard to peel off your skin. As grubs, they grow enormous, feeding inside rotting wood until they are bigger than a mouse. For all that bulk, the adults can still open their wings and fly, with a heavy droning buzz you can hear coming. Across that same floor sweep columns of army ants, and a bald-headed bird follows them to feed. The grey-necked rockfowl has a bare, brightly coloured head with no feathers on it at all, and it glues its mud nest to cave walls and overhanging rock. It hops along behind the ants in the half-dark, snapping up the insects and small creatures they flush from cover. So few people have ever found one of its hidden colonies that it has an almost mythical reputation among the ones who go looking. Those same ant swarms send the biggest monkey troops on Earth pouring across the floor. The mandrill is built like a small ape, and the dominant males wear the brightest face of any mammal, ridged in blue and blazed with red. The bolder that face, the higher the male ranks, and rivals can read his status from clear across a clearing. They travel in some of the biggest groups of any primate, sometimes hundreds strong. As they move, they rake through the leaf litter for insects and grubs, turning over the forest floor as they go. Trailing behind those troops is a long-tailed bird that lets the monkeys do its hunting. The white-crested hornbill has a long tail and a shock of white on its head, and it shadows monkey troops and columns of army ants through the trees. As the monkeys and ants flush insects and small animals out of hiding, the hornbill darts in and snatches up whatever tries to escape. It is not the only hunter shadowing the monkeys. A cat follows them too. The African golden cat lives only in these forests, and it is so secretive that most of what we know comes from camera traps. It hunts everything from rodents to birds and small antelope, a predator that has stayed a step ahead of us the whole time. That cat also stalks the ground birds here, like the only peafowl in all of Africa. The Congo peafowl is a deep, glossy blue-green, and for decades it was known only from a single feather in a museum, until the living bird was finally tracked down in the Congo. It shares that hidden flaw with an animal the world spent centuries refusing to believe was real. The Okapi has the striped legs of a zebra and the long neck and blue-black tongue of a giraffe, which is its closest relative. It lives only in the forests of the Congo and nowhere else, moving alone and silent among the trees. That tongue is long enough to reach up and clean its own eyes and ears, and for years outsiders were convinced the whole animal was a myth. Where the forest opens into mineral-rich clearings, the trees above fill with the smartest bird in Africa. The African grey parrot can copy almost any sound it hears, and in the wild it gathers in big, noisy flocks that pour down to feed. That intelligence is also its curse, because it makes the bird prized as a pet and trapped in huge numbers. Those same clearings draw the largest forest antelope in Africa, down to eat the mineral-rich earth. The bongo is a deep chestnut colour, striped with white, big-bodied and surprisingly hard to see in dappled light. It feeds mostly at night, slipping out of the trees to the open glades where the soil gives it what its leafy diet can't. Both males and females carry long, lyre-shaped horns, which they tilt back along their spines to push through thick brush without snagging. Up in the canopy above them, the fruit draws one of the most spectacular birds in the forest. The great blue turaco is nearly the size of a goose, in brilliant blue and green with a tall black crest, crashing clumsily from branch to branch. A poor flyer, it would rather run along the limbs and glide between trees, and its deep, throaty call is one of the loudest sounds in the forest. Sharing that fruit is a monkey found only on this side of the river, with jaws strong enough to crack the hardest seeds. The black-crested mangabey is nearly all black with a pointed crest, and the males give a deep, booming call that rolls through the forest to warn other groups off their patch. Climbing those same branches, but after ants instead of fruit, is one of the strangest animals on Earth. The tree pangolin is a mammal covered head to tail in hard, overlapping scales, with a long tail it uses to hang from the branches. It has no teeth at all, and instead laps up ants and termites with a tongue that can be longer than its whole body. When anything threatens it, it rolls into a tight armoured ball almost no predator can open, and yet that armour is useless against the one threat that matters, because pangolins are the most trafficked wild mammals in the world. Higher still, a monkey lives on the leaves the fruit eaters ignore. The Angolan colobus is glossy black with a long white cape of hair down its sides and a sweeping white tail. It almost never comes down to the ground, spending its whole life among the highest branches. When it leaps between trees, that cape streams out behind it like a banner, helping it ride the gaps. Its stomach is built to digest leaves that would poison most animals, which lets it live up here on a diet nothing else wants. One of its relatives came close to vanishing for good. Bouvier's red colobus went unseen for decades, and many feared it had quietly gone extinct. Then, only a few years back, a small group was finally photographed in the swampy forests of the Congo, alive after all. Among the leaves those colobus eat, a small reptile gets by doing everything slowly. The strange-horned chameleon takes its name from the odd flattened blade of a horn on the male's snout, and it lives in the forests of the eastern Congo. Each of its eyes swivels on its own, so it can watch in two directions at once without moving its head. It creeps along one careful step at a time, shifting its colour to melt into the leaves, then fires its tongue out faster than the eye can follow, at an insect that never saw it coming. Hidden in the densest growth of all is one of the rarest monkeys in Africa. The dryas monkey lives only in a small corner of the Congo, staying low in the tangled undergrowth where it can vanish the instant it feels watched. Just as little known, from one corner of Gabon is a monkey with a flash of orange at its tail. The sun-tailed monkey only became known to the outside world a few decades ago, and it lives in one small block of Central African forest, and nowhere else. It spends much of its time down on the forest floor, moving in groups and freezing into stillness the instant something feels wrong. All of these monkeys live in the shadow of the Canopy's most powerful hunter. The crowned eagle is strong enough to kill prey far heavier than itself, and it hunts monkeys high in the trees. It drops out of the canopy talons first and strikes with enough force to kill on impact. Pairs will hunt as a team, one bird flushing a troop into a panic, while the other waits for the moment to strike. The monkeys learn to escape that eagle by disappearing, and one has made stillness into an art. De Bratz's monkey wears a white beard and a neat orange crescent across its brow, but at the first sign of danger, it freezes against a branch and simply stops moving, sometimes for hours. In the dim, cluttered understory, a monkey that holds perfectly still is almost impossible to find. Another climber escapes that same eagle, not by freezing, but by moving in slow motion. The potto is a small, round-eyed primate that climbs hand over hand so slowly it barely seems to move at all. Hidden in its neck is a row of bony spines under the skin, which it jams up into the face of any predator that grabs it. It spends the whole night creeping after insects and fruit, moving so carefully that most hunters pass right by. All of them depend on the giant that built this forest in the first place. The African forest elephant is smaller and darker than its savanna cousin, with straight tusks for pushing through dense trees, and the trails it wears become the paths everything else uses. Without it spreading seeds and cutting those trails, much of the forest as it stands now would slowly fall apart. At the swampy clearings the elephants open, the gorilla most of us picture comes to feed. The western lowland gorilla moves in families, building a fresh nest to sleep in every night and feeding mostly on leaves, stems and fruit. Gentle as they usually are, a charging silverback is one of the most frightening sights in the forest, and it is almost always a bluff meant to make a rival leave. Crashing through those same clearings is the largest wild pig in the world. The giant forest hog is the size of a small cow, covered in coarse black hair and far heavier than it looks. When two boars meet over territory, they back off, then charge and crash their thick skulls straight into each other until one of them finally gives way. Far to the east, in forests cut off from the rest, lives the biggest gorilla of them all. Grauer's gorilla is found only in the eastern Congo, and years of conflict have made the largest of all gorillas one of the most endangered apes on Earth. Back in the western lowlands, a smaller, brighter pig trails the elephant herds. The red river hog is bright rust red with a white face and long tassels on its ears, rooting through the mud in noisy family groups and following elephants to dig through whatever they leave behind. For all that colour, it spends most of its life unseen, bolting into the undergrowth at the first hint of danger. Higher still, on cold volcanic slopes wrapped in cloud, lives the rarest gorilla of all. The mountain gorilla is among the largest primates on Earth, and a grown silverback can outweigh 2 men. They live higher up the mountains than almost any other primate, with thick coats to handle the cold and the constant rain. A family moves together under a single silverback, who decides where they feed and rest each day. Every night they bend fresh branches into a new nest, and every morning they move on. For all that power, they spend most of their time quietly pulling apart leaves and stems. Only about 1,000 of them are left, scattered across a handful of mountains, which makes them one of the rarest apes on Earth. But when something threatens his family, the silverback puts himself between them and the danger, and at close range almost nothing will push him back. Sharing these forests is our other closest relative, and this one hunts. Chimpanzees share almost all of our DNA, and they show it in everything they do. They make and use tools, fish for termites with stripped sticks, and crack nuts open with stones. They also hunt in coordinated groups, cornering monkeys in the canopy, and a troop runs on alliances and grudges it never forgets. Moving unseen among all of them is a predator you would recognise anywhere. It is the most widespread big cat in the world, equally at home in open savanna and in the deep rainforest of the Congo. It hunts alone and mostly after dark, creeping to within a few feet of its prey before the final rush. When it makes a kill, it hauls the body straight up a tree, out of reach of the lions and hyenas that would try to steal it. Those rosettes break up its outline so well that you can walk right past one, draped over a branch, and never notice it. A leopard spends its whole life staying out of sight, hidden from prey and rivals alike. But the one thing it can't avoid forever is another leopard. When 2 of them want the same ground, the fight is fast and brutal, a tangle of claws and dust that ends with one of them backing down. Across the great river that splits this basin lives the chimp's gentle opposite. The bonobo looks like a slimmer chimpanzee, but its world runs on the opposite rule, led by the females and built on keeping the peace. Where chimps would fight, bonobos settle nearly every argument with affection instead of violence. They share as much of our DNA as chimpanzees do, and they are every bit as much our closest living relatives. That river dividing the apes belongs by day to its largest resident. A hippo looks slow and harmless, half asleep in the shallows, and it is neither. It spends the daylight hours in the water to keep its skin from drying out, even oozing a reddish fluid that works like a built-in sunscreen. It can still run faster than a person over open ground, and it kills more people in Africa than lions and leopards combined. At night they leave the water to graze, sometimes for miles, then crowd back in by morning. The bulls fight for those stretches of river with jaws that open wider than a doorway, leaving gashes that take weeks to close. Onto the banks of that river comes a herd far more dangerous than it looks. The forest buffalo is a smaller red-coated cousin of the savanna buffalo, and when a predator takes a calf, the whole herd turns and charges as one wall of horns. Waiting in the water for that herd is the oldest hunter in all of Africa. The Nile crocodile has barely changed in tens of millions of years, and it kills by doing almost nothing at all. It is the largest reptile in Africa, and an old male can grow longer than a tall man lying head to foot. Being cold-blooded, it can go for months between meals, so it can afford to wait as long as it takes. It floats motionless for hours, with only its eyes above the surface. Then, the moment an animal comes down to drink, it explodes upward in a burst of speed. Its bite is among the most powerful ever measured, and once it has a grip, it rolls its whole body to drag the victim under. Most of the year the river is its own, and almost nothing dares to challenge it. Then the buffalo come down to drink. The crocodile seizes one by the jaw, and only the whole herd turning back together is enough to drag it free. The forest closes over the river, and the water keeps moving the way it has for millions of years. Most of what lives here will never be filmed or counted, and some of it has still never even been named. This is the second largest rainforest on Earth, and after everything we have seen, we have barely looked. And every night, in the dark under those trees, all of it begins again. This is Congo, a land of untamed beauty and wildlife at every turn. Now, if you don't want to miss the most extraordinary wildlife of the Caucasus, check out this video.